It started out as something tremendously complicated, as a suspected arson, a potential homicide.
West London, one of the busiest coroner's jurisdictions in England and Wales, with over 4,000 cases a year. Today, Coroner Alison Thompson is about to enter court to solve the mystery of a man who died in suspicious circumstances.
Bedroom 2, where the casualty was found.
It's the culmination of a 6-month investigation by the coroner's team.
From the moment that death has been reported, there's a whole play going on out there. Recovery of the body, police involvement.
Police entered into the premises, found the victim.
In her court, the coroner must establish the facts. Who was the deceased? When, where, and how did he die?
You have to go in with a flexible head. The unexpected happens and we have to be ready for it.
When life's end is unexplained, the answer falls to Her Majesty's coroner.
Court rise.
Saturday, the 12th of March. What should be one of the quietest days of the week for the coroner's team at Uxbridge Mortuary. But not today. A man has died in suspicious circumstances. Police and a pathologist have been called in to investigate.
The circumstances of the incident are as follows. Some builders noticed a male walk into the block of flats, then heard some banging, ringing a bell, calling out as if for the occupant to open the door. This carried on for about 10 minutes. From what I understand, it then went quiet for a further 10 minutes. These witnesses see the same male exit the building. A few moments later, there was smoke seen coming from the address. Police entered into the premises, found the victim. It appeared to the officers there were signs that he'd inhaled smoke.
While police outline the case, mortuary technicians prepare for a special post-mortem. These highly detailed forensic examinations are only carried out when a death is suspicious.
He's been taken to hospital,
Yes.
but presumably pronounced dead fairly soon thereafter.
Yes,
The 41-year-old man died yesterday afternoon, and a special post-mortem must be held as soon as possible to preserve crucial forensic evidence.
Of significance, there's one person in custody.
This is the male that was seen
Yes,
banging on the
yes.
doors?
As the man's death looks suspicious, police have limited time in which to charge the suspect or release him on bail.
Did you get a time, Howard? 0940, OK?
Dr. Ashley Fegan-Earle is one of only 30 Home Office forensic pathologists qualified to conduct special post-mortems. It's his job to determine the cause of death for the coroner. He begins by examining the body for any external injuries, which might suggest foul play.
And then just got some of these bruises and bits and... I mean, if you want to do it like that, that's fine.
The police investigation is being led by Detective Sergeant Nick Doherty. He'll be liaising with Coroner's Officer Shirley Stewart.
As soon as we have some indication that it's going suspicious or non-suspicious, as best we can determine, then I can deal with the suspect.
Samples of DNA, hair and body fluids have to be collected, meticulously logged and stored, preserved as evidence in any potential criminal trial.
Externally, we haven't found any injuries that give cause for concern that, for example, would suggest he'd been in a fight or anything like that. We're going to examine all of the internal organs now to look for any natural disease, any injuries that are present, but most importantly to look for whether there's evidence of inhalation of smoke into the airways.
Even though Dr. Fegan-Earle has ruled out an assault, DS Doherty needs to know if the fire contributed to the death. He may have to apply for an extension to keep the suspect in custody.
I spoke to Shirley.
the indication will be by about midday we should have an answer. So what I'll do, as soon as I get the answer, I'll give you a ring. If we need the extension, we need to do it before 1 o'clock. It needs to be really done in person. And if we're running low on time, it's not going to happen enough to kick him out, enough to release him.
After nearly 3 hours, the special post-mortem is almost complete.
There's no soot in the airways, Howard. No. I think at the end of that, we haven't got a definitive cause of death. That said, I cannot see any positive pathological evidence to suggest he's been the victim of any form of assault. Perhaps most importantly, there is no evidence of inhalation of fire fumes, so I can't see any sooty debris extending down the airways and branching into the lungs. That doesn't explain the fire at the moment. From the pathological features, he was not alive when that fire was ongoing. We come down to further investigations. I think probably most importantly toxicology, to see what drugs or alcohol are present in his system and which may be therefore relevant to the death.
In an intricate case like this, Shirley can attend the scene of the death to assist in the investigation. Her role is independent of police. She's looking for clues for the coroner.
We are the voice of the deceased, and we are there to protect them because they can no longer talk for themselves, and it's up to us to investigate the death, to establish the circumstances, to be able to satisfy a family that everything has been done correctly and within the parameters of the coroner's law. There is an awful lot of comparison with Silent Witness, Waking the Dead, CSI, Quincy. Quincy is another thing that they call you. That always makes me laugh. If only we could solve everything in half an hour, eh?
It's Saturday afternoon. At the scene, police and fire investigators search for evidence that could reveal how the fire started and how the man died.
Hello, sir. My name's Shirley. I'm from the coroner's office.
Hello, I'm Randy. I'm the crime scene examiner.
I think in here we found some bottles of medication that have got the deceased person's name on. Just in case we find this in his blood from the post-mortem this morning, we're doing toxicology. If they could be seized, so we've got the physical evidence that it is actually his, because it'll have his name on it. And then also in the living room, I've noticed there's some strips of tablets. I haven't been able to see what they are, but if you could take those as well.
I'll take a photograph in situ first.
Please,
and
yes.
then I'll package them later.
That's lovely.
Okay.
And then if we give them to Nick, he can store them until such time the investigation is completed.
Okay.
Both by the police and the coroner. Right. Yeah, you okay with that? Thanking you.
The dead man was discovered on his bed. There are prescription drugs and alcohol on most surfaces. The London Fire Brigade investigation team are now focused on the bedroom next door, where the fire started.
We found a newspaper, which is a day old.
The previous day?
Previous day. And we found it right in the area burning, which is here.
Was it just lying on the floor?
It had been
Was there other stuff underneath it? It was been pushed. It appeared to have been pushed under the...
It had been pushed under the bed amongst all the other storage, the videos, the boxes. The fire has then spread to the underside of the mattress. It burns along through underside of the mattress.
Heat's radiated down to all the rest of the stuff.
Up any easily flammable materials or easily ignitable materials.
So at this point, is there anything to indicate what started that?
In our opinion, it's an application of naked flame by persons unknown.
In other words, the fire was started deliberately, but they don't know by whom or why. After 10 hours of investigation, Shirley's work for the coroner is only just beginning. Coroner Alison Thompson lives and works in West London. Her her team deal with an average of 75 deaths each week. The leafy surrounds of Richmond in spring remind her of the cases she's dealt with over the past 12 years.
I go to work and I sort of pass the scenes of previous cases, so I always remember them. I'm always particularly careful if it's been an area where there's been a road traffic accident, so I'm hypersensitive to the locations I see. It's really beautiful. Unfortunately, this is also an area where we have a number of suicides. And it's got lakes and beautiful ducks and black swans, and it's just a lovely part of the park with rhododendrons, and it's a beauty spot. And unfortunately, lots of people choose to go there and hang themselves. And of course, seeing the aircraft, we're on the flight path, and we've had a number of fatalities of people who are stowed away in the undercarriage. One of them fell fairly recently into the local Sainsbury's car park. Previous boyfriend said that, you know, I saw everything as danger. You know, I'd be on a cable car on a skiing holiday and be terrified, or I'd be watching children in a playground thinking of health and safety rather than thinking, isn't that a beautiful sight? So yes, they're in danger all around them. Danger everywhere.
Good morning, Coroner's Office. Can I help you? What's the name of the deceased?
Alison's court is in Fulham, where she has 5 investigating officers, who are the first port of call for all sudden and unexplained deaths.
We're not going to hurt her, Maggie. You know, we can't hurt her. But I think we need to find out what happened.
With 12 years' experience, Shane Spencer is one of the longest-serving coroner's officers. Dealing with grieving families is one of the toughest parts of her job.
All right, then I will do, Maggie. Take care. Bye-bye.
Shane came from the ambulance service, so she's got nerves of steel to be able to sort of manage that.
Today, she's handling an unusual road traffic death, involving an 81-year-old local businessman.
This gentleman was over from Spain to attend the funeral of his brother. And outside his home, I think he was returning to the home address in Richmond, and he was involved in a collision with a pedal cyclist. Sustained serious injuries at the scene. The accident happened on the 21st, and he passed away on the 24th.
There was hypostasis on the back of the body, the eyes were natural, the dentition was largely absent.
Good afternoon. Is Eduardo there, please? It's the coroner's office. Hello. It's just to let you know the results of your father's post-mortem. The examination has taken place and the cause of death will come back as a head injury. We will open and adjourn the inquest today. Then we will issue all the paperwork tomorrow and he'll be released to your undertakers. All right. OK, and obviously my condolences. I've already been informed by the undertakers that they want Dad for cremation, and that'll all be sorted, and he'll be released to them tomorrow, or as soon as they can come and get him. All right. He was a character, wasn't he? Yeah. 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 Thank you, and again, my condolences, sir. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Shane has to brief the coroner at the beginning of every case her court deals with.
This is a gentleman by the name of Fernando Izquierdo. On the 21st of April, he was involved in a collision with a pedal cyclist, actually a few yards from his home. The family have a restaurant named after their father.
Well, in that case, I think I might know it.
Yes.
Because it is quite a well-known tapas restaurant, I think, in Richmond, up by the station.
I think you're right,
And it's-
Mum.
yes.
I think yes. It
So
may take
we're
longer.
issuing paperwork now to let him go.
We will release it in the
Yes.
morning, yeah.
With any case where the family wishes to bury their loved one overseas, the coroner must sign an out-of-England form to authorise it, although it's not always necessary.
We won't need to. He's going as hand luggage. His ashes are going back to Spain.
I'm sorry.
No, that's fine, Mum. They did say he would quite like the idea of that. Bless him. He sounded quite a sweet gentleman, but
Really?
the family are really pleasant. Family are really pleasant.
So, I wonder what the police are doing with that, if anything.
It's Hampton that are dealing, Hampton Traffic Garage. Post-mortem was done at Kingston Hospital.
Hampton, the Specialist Collision Investigation Unit of the Metropolitan Police. The team here deal with traffic fatalities for the whole of West London. Investigator PC Adrian Armstrong has recreated the scene of Fernando Izquierdo's traffic collision.
I investigate on behalf of the coroner. Finding out how somebody died is the most important job that a police officer can ever do.
The laser reconstruction allows him to calculate vehicle speeds and braking distances with pinpoint accuracy.
This is the view that Mr. Izquierdo would have had looking up the road as he looked back towards the bus. Now, the witnesses said Mr. Izquierdo simply didn't look before he crossed the road, but it seems far more likely that he in fact did look, but that he was happy that there was a bus there and that he had time to cross before the bus reached him.
The bus itself has provided vital evidence. Its onboard cameras captured the collision from 4 different angles.
Mr. Izquierdo just didn't expect a cyclist to come round the bus. The cyclists reacted in less than 1 second's time, but it was too late.
I'm on call, so I don't tend to plan much when I'm on call, to be honest with you, because it's always when you're in Marks and Spencer's or somewhere like that the pager goes off and all of a sudden you find lots of people around you. It's a fascination of the unknown, I guess.
7 o'clock, Monday morning. At the coroner's Uxbridge office, Shirley Stewart catches up on the weekend's cases.
Never regaining consciousness.
Next door, it's the responsibility of the all-female technician team of Cheryl, Mary Ann and Cassie to look after the deceased before, during and after the post-mortem.
I've been here full-time for a couple of years now, 2.5 years. But I worked before that for a couple of years as an sort of as and when Saturday girl, if you like, like at hairdressers. I'm not a spiritualist person or anything like that, but it does make me sort of see that this is a vessel that carries us around day to day, and what we are and who we are and our beliefs and the way we treat people. That's your spirit, and that goes. It's going to sound silly, but I actually do believe that there is something else after. I do believe that. No, I'd like to believe that. Go elsewhere. Yeah. You know, and you're at peace. Mm. You see quite ironic, funny things sometimes. Sometimes you might get an elderly gentleman come in with a pair of ladies' underwear on. And, you know, little things like that, really. And yeah, and you sort of, wasn't expecting that. You know, you go to do the head and the wig falls off and you're not expecting it to be there, and, you know, it's just silly things, isn't it, really? You've got to be human, you've got to be caring here, haven't you? You'd never, you know, say, that one over there with the funny hair. I mean, that'd be dreadful. Yeah, no. Gentleman, lady, Mr, Mrs, yeah. But again, that's about having respect for what you're dealing with. And it's huge.
In the office next door, Shirley is making the difficult call to the sister of the man who died in the weekend's suspicious fire. Police believe the man is 41-year-old Terry Williams, but to be sure, they need confirmation from his family.
So at this point in time, we don't know why your brother's died, but we can be sure that he hasn't died as the result of the fire. All right? What we really need to do is make arrangements for either yourself or somebody, you know, another member of your family, to attend the mortuary in Uxbridge to formally identify your brother. You'll be able to do that, will you, Jill? You're happy to do that?
It's important to make that, you know, that memory for the family fairly decent, because that might be the last time they see him, and unfortunately with a death like that, the family have to come in and identify formally the body, and it'd be cruel to not present it well.
Well, you know, the most important thing at the moment is to have him formally identified by yourself so that you can have a bit of peace of mind. All right. You're welcome. Yep, I'll be here. All right, Jill. Thank you for your time. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
When you put a body out to view and you think, oh God, they really look quite nice, it's a lovely feeling. If you can make it just a tiny bit more bearable by small gestures, then that's what it's all about, isn't it?
Hello, Alison Thompson.
Hello, Mum, it's Shirley.
Shirley, good morning. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
I know you've had a very, very tricky weekend and you must be exhausted.
A little bit.
Yes. You okay, though?
Yes, I'm fine. I'm absolutely fine. I'm just really ringing you to update you on what happened on Saturday. We've taken a sample of blood, urine and vitreous humour.
Yes.
Because at the address were found some medication and the alcohol, lots of empty alcohol bottles and cans. And they'll be forwarded, with your consent, to the forensic toxicology labs for analysis.
Yes.
The medication is definitely his, and
Yes.
it is sleeping tablets. If it's okay, Mum, we can open the inquest, please.
Yes, we can do that either this afternoon or tomorrow morning.
Thank you very
Whichever
much.
is easiest.
Okay.
So that's it. Oh, well done, Shirley. And I know you will have got everybody organised.
I'm told I did.
Yes, well, I expect nothing less. I know that you will have done, and thank you for that.
Toxicology samples, like those belonging to Terry Williams, are dispatched to St George's, University of London, for specialist testing. Here they can isolate poisons, street drugs, and over-the-counter prescriptions. The toxicology team's analysis of Terry's samples could prove vital to the coroner's investigation.
Do come in.
Thank you, Mark.
Morning. Nice to see you.
My name's Nick Doherty. I'm a DS.
Do have a seat. I thought, in view of the circumstances of the case, it would be useful to have you here at the formal opening of the inquest, if that's all right. And so what I'm going to ask you to do is simply outline the overall circumstances of the case, if you can.
The situation I have is I've got two different incidents.
Yes.
I've got the incident with the deceased and obviously the incident of the fire.
The weekend's investigation concluded that the fire didn't cause Terry Williams' death, but it was started deliberately. The arson suspect has been released on bail, pending further inquiries. Who started the fire is still unknown. And now Terry's flatmate has come forward with new information.
I don't know if you're aware, Mum, there's a witness that also resides in that flat. He saw the deceased take some pills earlier that morning.
With the pill packets that Shirley gathered from the scene, and Detective Sergeant Doherty's new witness evidence, the coroner is closer to establishing exactly how Terry died.
Police believe a man whose body was found yesterday was a student who'd been missing for 2 weeks.
Believed to be in his 20s has been shot dead in Chippenham.
An elderly woman has died in a house fire and cause is being investigated.
Coroner's officer Shane Spencer is on her way to Hampton to collect the final police report on the death of Richmond restaurateur Fernando Izquierdo.
You do feel for your families, don't get me wrong, but you can't take it all on board. You know, if I was sobbing with each and every one, I'd be a complete wreck. I'd probably be in a folder somewhere on another coroner's officer's desk.
Once she has the police file, the inquest date can be set. Sadly, it's not the first time that Shane and Detective Inspector Tom Sheridan have had to deal with a death in the Izquierdo family.
Good afternoon.
Hello, Shane. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Nice to see you. Welcome to Hampton.
Thank you.
Come and take a seat.
Thank you.
This family, I think we've met before, haven't we?
Yes, we have,
Under
yeah.
very tragic circumstances, too.
Yeah, it was a grandson. The grandson of
Fernando.
Fernando sadly died in a collision with a bus on Kingston Bridge.
That's right, yeah. About 2 years previous,
yeah.
I think. All our collisions are tragic, but this is, you know, especially so because of obviously the fact that they've been here before.
Yes, don't know in 12 years I've ever had it where it's been the same family.
Sometimes you think, you know, why does it have to come to somebody's door again?
I know.
It's just, as I say, it's tragic. The report that we've given you here contains a number of maps and diagrams and calculations in there that show the coroner how we've come to the conclusions that we've come to.
The final piece of evidence in Shane's investigation is PC Armstrong's analysis of the CCTV footage.
As the bus comes to a stop, the driver told us in his statement that quite a lot of people got off, and we can see Mr. Izquierdo coming out of his, he's coming out of his front door. The bus is indicating to the right and starting to pull away. And you can see that both of them were knocked out by the accident.
Good grief. That is quite an impact, isn't it? Oh, gosh.
The cyclist did nothing wrong.
No.
He was going at a reasonable speed. He did everything the highway code asks of you.
Coming round the bus, the last thing you would have expected was someone to step out in front of you, wasn't it?
Absolutely.
That's awful.
It's down to a split second how tenuous your link is to this life. If you'd have left home 5 minutes earlier or 5 minutes later, do you know what I mean? Or walked up the road a little bit further and before he crossed, and that's what it's down to, just split second.
In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit.
St. Elizabeth's, Richmond, and the family and friends of Fernando Izquierdo have gathered to bid him a final farewell.
My dear friends in Christ, let us prepare ourselves to celebrate the holy sacrifice of the Mass, which we offer this morning for the happy repose of Fernando.
For his son, Eduardo, it's a chance to fondly remember his father, the patriarch of a large West London family.
When he was younger, he was a lovable rogue, you could call him. He moved to London in the mid-50s. He came with a suitcase and not a penny on him, and he worked his way up. We all ended up in catering. My brother was the chef in the Hilton, and another brother was a chef in the Ritz. And we just came back, and Dad said, come on, let's open a restaurant together. Obviously, the restaurant's called Don Fernando's after my dad, and it is him. If you looked around, just about everything you see has come from Spain, and everything was chosen by my dad. In fact, every time you look around, you see Dad, which is nice in some ways, but it's a bit sad as well. He actually passed away on Easter morning, with myself and my elder brother just there with him, holding his hand. So that was nice. Mum would have liked to have been there, but we had to keep sending her home because she was not in a good state. You know, they just actually celebrated their 50th wedding anniversary the week before. I think it hit her pretty hard. Well, it hit us all hard, but I think obviously Mum's the worst, so we have to look after her now.
That concludes all the evidence that I propose to call in this case. The sad death of Mr. Fernando Izquierdo Alvarez.
After a 5-month investigation, the coroner's case is complete.
I will record a verdict of accidental death. It was, I think, a genuine accident. I'm not here as a bereavement counsellor or a social worker or anything like that. I'm here to do a legal job. But if people walk out of families feeling, well, you know, we're more settled in our minds about it, we can live with this now, we can come to terms with the death, then that has to be good.
No one was to blame. You think all sorts of things when people are dying and when your loved ones are, you can see them struggling, and then when you sit down and look at the bare facts, and the inquest helps with that, you sort of, it's very helpful. and that helps you move on. You live life to the full, and although you care and it's affected you, just be happy that you had such a great dad and that he had a good life, and he did. Dad would have liked to have been hit by a Ferrari, really, as opposed to a bicycle. I mean, and, you know, probably when we go to Spain, we'll tell everybody he was hit by something like that.
It's a new week at Uxbridge Mortuary, and Home Office pathologist Dr. Ashley Fegan-Earle is preparing for the day's post-mortem examinations.
Good morning, Coroner's Office. May I help you?
In the office next door, Shirley Stewart is following up on Terry Williams' case and fielding the steady flow of new ones.
Coroner's Office.
It's 4 routine cases today, so that's not too bad.
The London Ambulance Service brought him into casualty, did they? And his date of birth, please. And died when, please. And his first name, please. And his family's wishes are for organ donation.
We're all too well aware of the movies where everything in forensics is so precise, so accurate. You'll see some films where we're told exactly how many hours and minutes ago they died. But in reality, can we do that? The answer's no. Fly eggs in his nose. Get rid of them. They will automatically seek out the odour of death. And that's actually one of the few sciences that we do have any faith in, because insects visit a body in a distinct order, and by looking at the species that are present, the entomologists can make an assessment of the time since death.
Oh, wow, look at that. That's the FACS toxicology report for Terry Williams. Oh, my goodness me.
What we do see, I suppose, in the context of daily life is very surreal, but it's something that the vast majority of people, if they were exposed to it, would get very used to. So seeing these bodies here today is no different to me seeing a car travelling down the street. Who's next?
With the toxicology results now in, Shirley can give the coroner her final briefing on the Terry Williams case.
Now, we do know that this gentleman actually went to the chemist the day before.
Yes.
And cashed in his prescription of 10 Zopiclone tablets.
Right.
And the empty wrappers were found at the address and were seized by police.
Excellent.
So...
Have we got the toxic range there? Right. So we're quite clear, 0.58, we're into a fatal range, without a doubt.
Yeah.
Any previous overdoses?
Yes, he does have a history. Feeling actively suicidal in March of 2010. Again, suicidal ideation plus a little bit later in that month.
We've got a clear overdose. We've got obtaining the medication the day before. We've got an empty pack of 10 tablets.
What we don't have is any note found. So we haven't got any written evidence of intention to take his own life.
No, so we'll obviously determine it on the evidence we have, but matter for me at the inquest. But no, that's helpful. And the chap who was arrested originally.
The arson charges against this man were dropped earlier this week, and he has been informed of that.
Good. Right. I think we could get that on pretty soon.
OK. Lovely. I'll speak to his sister and then find out if they've got any dates they specifically need to be avoided.
With summer
set
holidays planned.
Yeah.
The coroner may have all the written evidence she needs in Terry's case. But what his sister Jill knows about his life is also important to the investigation.
The day we had the knock at the door from the policeman to say that Terry had died and there was a house fire, you know, all sorts of things go through your head, and the first thing you think is that he's been burnt. First, you know, 5 days was hard, but slowly, it was all starting to, we were finding sort of more answers, which, you know, we were bringing a light to everything.
You know, we have to be very honest with you, and you've heard things that perhaps you wouldn't want to hear.
Yeah.
And that, you know, I can't imagine how that must have made you feel.
You know, we had quite a few arguments, but it's only because to tell him that he needed to go and get help somewhere in between of the age of 14 to 16, he was sexually abused, and he hit the drink quite hard, and then it's sort of downhill from then on, really. Personality changed. He just sort of relying on alcohol every day after he finished work. He used to cry hell of a lot. He used to sob his heart out. Sometimes we just couldn't reach him. He was just so mentally scarred.
It's Wednesday, the 7th of September, 6 months after Terry Williams' death. His sister Jill is attending court to hear the coroner decide how, when and where he died.
Started out as something tremendously complicated, as a suspected arson, a potential homicide, and all that, as far as this man's death is concerned, has turned out to be a peripheral matter. Big investigation from the police point of view, quite rightly so, and one that's still technically open. But I'm going to focus very much on him. The impression I get is that he thinks suicidal thoughts when he's had a lot to drink. That doesn't necessarily mean he intends the outcome to be fatal. We'll see. I don't know which way it'll go. Right, OK, off we go.
Court rise.
Good morning, everyone. Please.
English law does not allow filming in court, so the coroner has re-recorded her summing up for this case.
So what evidence is there of Mr. Williams' intentions? His flatmate saw him on 2 or 3 occasions swallowing tablets with alcohol. I bear in mind the evidence of the key worker who doesn't believe he had suicidal thoughts at all. I was minded that the evidence did not persuade me to the required standard of proof, but what I have found to be very compelling evidence in this case is the evidence of Mr. Williams' sister, Gillian. She felt very strongly that on this particular occasion everything was different. I am satisfied, bearing in mind all that I've heard, that Mr. Williams did intend to take his own life that particular morning. I didn't expect that it would go that way. It just shows you one must always keep an open mind. The sister knew him better than anybody, and she was very much of the view that he had intended that on this particular occasion.
He woke up that morning knowing what he wanted to do. He just couldn't cope no more with the demons in his head. He decided to call it a day, I'm sure. We were close, yeah. We were close. If we went out, he would be there behind me. Oi, that's my sister.
That's the last thing you need when you're a teenager.
Yeah, that's right. So, but I knew he was always there. So we miss him. We do really, really miss him. We miss him putting the world to rights by shouting and hollering. We just miss everything. You know, his bads, his goods, everything. We really do. I know that everybody has worked so hard for Terry, and I really am grateful for everything everybody's done, especially you, Shirley.
Thank you. How do I let off steam? Something that involves life and living. I love Queen. I love Queen. I want to break free.